London, the city of dreams and dazzling lights, was alive that evening, buzzing with laughter and music. At the luxurious Starview Hotel, a farewell party was in full swing. Among the crowd of elegantly dressed guests stood Nanny, a 28-year-old financial expert known for her sharp intellect and determination. Nanny wasn't one to frequently indulge in social events, but tonight was an exception. Her best friend was leaving for America, and she had promised to make this evening special. Dressed in a sleek, emerald green dress that accentuated her confident aura, Nanny sipped on her cocktail, letting the vibrant energy of the room consume her. As the night went on, the lively atmosphere, sparkling lights, and a few too many colorful drinks began to take their toll on her senses. Feeling tipsy, Nanny excused herself from the group and headed to the elevator. Her steps were unsteady as she walked down the hallway of the 12th floor, the numbers on the doors blurring together. Finding a slightly open door, she assumed it was hers. Lucky me, she thought, stepping inside without hesitation. The room smelled of warm sandalwood, and the dim lighting created an oddly comforting atmosphere. She kicked off her heels and flopped onto the bed, giggling softly to herself. But the peace was short-lived as a deep, unfamiliar voice broke the silence. "Who are you?" Nanny looked up, her hazy eyes meeting a striking figure standing by the door. A man with damp, tousled hair, a towel wrapped around his waist, and piercing gray eyes stared back at her. Nanny's laughter bubbled up uncontrollably, her cheeks flushing a deep pink. "Oh my God," she mumbled, her voice trailing with drunken awe. "You're like a Greek god stepped out of a painting. How is this even real?" She blinked, trying to focus, as if she couldn't trust her own eyes. Alexander raised an eyebrow, a slight smirk playing on his lips. "Thanks, but I think you've got the wrong room." Ignoring his words entirely, Nanny got up, wobbling slightly as she moved closer. "You know," she began, her voice filled with drunken awe, "you look like someone who just stepped out of my dreams. How can anyone be this good-looking?" Alexander's surprise was evident, but before he could respond, Nanny wrapped her arms around his neck, her boldness fueled by the alcohol. "I should thank you for being the most handsome man I've ever seen," she whispered. Before Alexander could react, Nanny's lips met his, soft and unexpected. For a moment, he froze, but something about her spontaneity pulled him into the moment. That night, under the warm glow of the bedside lamp, their worlds collided in a whirlwind of passion, creating a memory neither of them would ever forget, a memory that would change both their lives forever. The next morning, soft sunlight filtered through the curtains, illuminating Nanny's delicate face. She woke up, her head pounding, her memories of the previous night a hazy blur. Slowly turning her head, her heart stopped when she saw the man lying peacefully next to her, the same handsome stranger from last night. Alexander was still asleep, his serene expression making him look even more attractive. Nanny quietly gathered her clothes, trying not to make a sound, and slipped out of the room, her mind racing with confusion and embarrassment. Nanny stepped into the towering glass building that housed the headquarters of Knight Enterprises. She had been thrilled to receive an offer from one of London's most prestigious financial firms. This was her chance to prove herself and take her career to the next level. Clutching her bag tightly, she walked through the grand lobby, the air buzzing with the energy of a top-tier corporation. She reminded herself to focus, to stay sharp, and to not let anything distract her from this fresh start. But all her determination crumbled when she entered the orientation meeting and heard the name Alexander Knight. "Good morning, everyone. I'm Alexander Knight, CEO of Knight Enterprises. It's a pleasure to welcome all of you here today." Alexander strode into the room with effortless confidence. His commanding presence filled the space, his sharp gray eyes scanning the crowd. When his gaze landed on Nanny, his brows lifted slightly, a flicker of surprise flashing across his face before it was replaced with a knowing smirk. Nanny froze in her seat, her heart pounding. No, it can't be him, she thought, her face heating with a mix of shock and panic. When the meeting ended, Nanny tried to slip away unnoticed, but as she stepped into the elevator, a strong hand stopped the doors from closing. Alexander stepped in, standing right next to her. His intoxicating cologne filled the small space, making it impossible for her to focus. Do you often find yourself in the wrong room, or was that just for me? Alexander asked, his tone teasing. Nanny flushed, trying to keep her composure. I don't think this is the place to discuss personal matters, Mr. Knight, she replied, staring straight at the elevator buttons. Alexander chuckled softly, his eyes never leaving her. Fair enough, Nanny, but I'm sure we'll have plenty of opportunities to talk. When the elevator doors opened, Nanny stepped out as quickly as possible, her mind swirling. She couldn't believe it. Her new boss was the very man she had spent a night trying to forget. The first few weeks at Knight Enterprises were a whirlwind for Nanny. Adjusting to the fast-paced corporate environment was challenging enough, but having Alexander Knight around made it even harder to stay composed. Every time they crossed paths in the hallway, his gaze lingered a moment too long, and his subtle smirk left her flustered. She tried to stay professional, avoiding unnecessary interactions, but Alexander had a way of appearing at just the right moments, slowly chipping away at her defenses. One evening, long after most employees had left, Nanny remained at her desk, working on an important project. The soft glow of her computer screen highlighted her face, and her tired eyes stayed focused on the numbers in front of her. You really are a hard worker, a familiar voice broke the silence, making her jump slightly. Looking up, Nanny saw Alexander standing in her doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee. He stepped inside and placed one on her desk. Thought you might need this. She offered a polite smile. Thank you, Mr. Knight. Alexander, he corrected, his tone firm. Call me Alexander. The air between them grew heavier, charged with unspoken tension. All right, Alexander, she replied, her voice soft but steady. Do you often check on employees working late? He chuckled, his sharp gaze cutting through her guarded demeanor. No, but you're not like the others, Nanny. Her heart skipped a beat at his words. No matter how much she tried to deny it, Alexander's quiet attentiveness and charm were wearing her down. Over time, their interactions became more frequent, and the line between professionalism and personal connection blurred. Late-night conversations, stolen glances, and Alexander's subtle yet thoughtful gestures slowly broke through Nanny's resolve. One night, as they worked late in his office, Alexander finally confessed, I can't stop thinking about you, Nanny. She turned to him, her emotions swirling. We shouldn't do this, Alexander. You're my boss. This isn't right. Alexander stepped closer, his voice calm but firm. I don't care about the rules, Nanny. All I know is that I want you in my life. Her defenses crumbled under the weight of his sincerity. They finally gave in to their feelings, beginning a secret relationship filled with stolen moments of sweetness and undeniable passion. Their happiness was short-lived. One evening, as they left a restaurant after a private dinner date, the flash of cameras caught them off guard. Within hours, tabloids were flooded with pictures of the charismatic young CEO and his mysterious employee girlfriend. At the office, whispers spread like wildfire. Who is she to get his attention? One colleague murmured. She's probably using him to climb the ladder, another added. Nanny felt the weight of their stares and judgment. Though Alexander reassured her, the constant scrutiny from co-workers and the media left her emotionally drained. Things worsened when Alexander's mother, Victoria Knight, got involved. A formidable and traditional woman, Victoria wasted no time expressing her disapproval. You don't belong in the Knight family, Nanny, she said coldly during a private meeting. Alexander needs someone worthy, not some ordinary employee. Her sharp words cut deep, leaving Nanny questioning whether their love could truly survive the mounting obstacles. Nanny and Alexander's relationship became the center of attention. Every day at work, Nanny felt the weight of countless stares, the whispers that followed her everywhere. The tabloids constantly churned out sensational stories about their forbidden office romance. Each photo and headline made her feel as if she were on trial before the world. Worse still, Alexander's mother, Victoria Knight, made her disapproval abundantly clear. During a private meeting, Victoria didn't hesitate to show her disdain. Do you think Alexander loves you? It's fleeting, she said coldly. You have no status, no pedigree. The Knight family needs someone who can match our stature, not an ordinary employee like you. Her words cut like knives. Despite Alexander's efforts to protect her, Nanny felt the pressure from every angle, suffocating her more each day. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day, Alexander found Nanny sitting quietly in her apartment, her eyes filled with unshed tears. "I can't do this anymore, Alexander," she whispered. "I feel like I'm a burden, not just to you, but to the company. People are judging me, your mother hates me, and I don't want you to have to choose between me and your family." Alexander sat beside her, taking her hand in his. "You're not a burden, Nanny. You're the only thing that makes my life worth it." But Nanny shook her head, her voice breaking. "Sometimes loving someone means letting them go. I think we need time to figure out if our love is strong enough to survive all this." The next morning, Nani left London. She retreated to her mother's small home in the countryside, searching for peace away from the judgmental eyes and relentless scrutiny. One quiet afternoon, Nanny noticed subtle changes in her body. She bought a pregnancy test, and when the two bold red lines appeared, her heart stopped. She was carrying Alexander's child. A mix of fear and joy overwhelmed her. She wanted to tell him, but doubts lingered. Would the news burden him further, or would it only add to the chaos surrounding his life? As time passed, Nanny focused on building a new life. She worked freelance jobs to support herself, spent time reading about motherhood, and tried to embrace the quiet simplicity of the countryside. Yet, despite her efforts to move on, her heart remained tethered to London and to Alexander. One morning, while shopping at a local market, Nanny overheard a group of people talking. "They say Knight Enterprises is on the brink of collapse." Alexander Knight? He used to be one of the best CEOs, but ever since that breakup, he's lost all focus. The words sent a jolt through her. She rushed home, opened her laptop, and scrolled through the headlines. Knight Enterprises faces major crisis as CEO struggles to lead. Her heart sank deeper with every article she read. Guilt washed over her as she realized her absence had left Alexander not only heartbroken, but also struggling to hold together the empire he had spent years building. She couldn't ignore the fact that she had been his anchor, and without her, he was adrift. Placing a hand on her growing belly, she knew she couldn't stay silent any longer. This child deserved to know its father, and Alexander deserved to know the truth. That night, as she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, memories of Alexander filled her mind. His smile, his quiet strength, the way he made her feel like the only person in the world. Summoning her courage, she sat up and booked a train ticket. The next morning, with a small suitcase in hand, she boarded a train bound for London. "We left you, it wasn't because I didn't love you," she whispered to herself. "But now, I'm coming back, because that love never faded." Nanny stepped off the train, the crisp London air brushing against her face as she clutched her coat tightly. The city bustled as usual, yet her heart was racing with a mixture of anticipation, anxiety, and resolve. Gently placing her hand over her growing belly, she reminded herself that this time she wasn't coming back for herself, but for the two lives growing inside her, and for the man she couldn't forget. Walking into the towering headquarters of Knight Enterprises, Nanny ignored the hushed whispers and curious stares of her former colleagues. With her head held high, she made her way to the boardroom, where an emergency meeting with the board of directors was taking place. When she opened the door, every eye turned to her. At the head of the table stood Alexander, looking worn yet exuding the same commanding presence. His sharp gray eyes locked onto hers, widening in disbelief. "Nanny?" His voice was hoarse, almost a whisper, as if he couldn't trust his own eyes. She stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. "I know the company is in trouble. I'm here to help you." After the meeting, Alexander and Nanny faced each other in his office. The air between them was thick with tension and unspoken emotions. "Why are you here, Nanny?" Alexander asked, his voice a mix of frustration, pain, and longing. Nanny placed a folder on his desk. "Because I know this company. I have a plan to pull Knight Enterprises out of this crisis. But I'm not just here for the company. I came back for you, Alexander." His piercing eyes searched hers, as though trying to uncover more. "You're still hiding something from me, aren't you, Nanny?" She hesitated for a moment, then placed her hand gently on her belly. "You're right, I am." Her voice softened as she continued. "I'm pregnant. And it's not just one, Alexander. We're having twins." Alexander froze, his eyes widening as he took in her words. A cascade of emotions washed over his face: shock, joy, and a hint of sorrow for not knowing sooner. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice trembling. "I was afraid," she admitted. "Afraid that it would complicate your life even more. But now I realize you deserve to know, and our children deserve to know their father." Without hesitation, Alexander stepped forward and wrapped her in a tight embrace. "You're not a burden, Nanny. You're everything to me. And now, we'll face this together." With Nanny back by his side, she and Alexander began working tirelessly to save Knight Enterprises. They collaborated on strategies to restore investor confidence, restructured key departments, and launched bold initiatives to regain market trust. Nanny's brilliance and sharp analytical skills quickly earned the respect of the board. During a pivotal presentation, she unveiled an innovative plan to expand into the European market, a move that could reverse the company's fortunes. Alexander watched her from across the room, pride and admiration lighting up his face. When the presentation ended, he walked up to her and said, "You're incredible, Nanny. I never doubted that." Gradually, the company began to recover. Profits returned, key projects gained momentum, and stock prices climbed once again. But for Alexander, the most important thing wasn't just the company's revival, it was the return of the woman he loved. Months later, when Knight Enterprises was officially declared stable, Alexander hosted a grand celebration for the entire company. In the glittering ballroom of the Ritz Hotel, Nanny arrived in an elegant navy ghoul gown that highlighted her radiant beauty. Despite her growing belly, her grace and confidence captivated everyone, especially Alexander, who couldn't take his eyes off her all evening. As the celebration reached its peak, the lights dimmed, leaving a single spotlight on Alexander as he stepped onto the stage with a small velvet box in his hand. "Thank you all for standing by us during these challenging times," he began, his deep voice resonating through the room. "But tonight, I want to thank someone in particular, someone who didn't just save this company, but also saved my heart." The room fell silent as Alexander stepped off the stage and walked directly toward Nanny. Kneeling before her, he opened the velvet box to reveal a dazzling diamond ring. "Nanny, you came into my life like a storm, flipping my world upside down. From the moment we met, you've challenged me, inspired me, and shown me what it means to truly love. You're not just an intelligent and strong woman. You're my heart, my partner, and the only one I want by my side for the rest of my life. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down Nanny's face as she covered her mouth in shock. The entire room erupted into applause as she nodded, her voice trembling with emotion. "Yes, I will." Alexander slid the ring onto her finger and pulled her into a loving embrace. The crowd cheered as the couple shared a kiss, their love radiating through the room. Months later, Alexander and Nanny celebrated their wedding at the Knight family's grand ancestral estate. The once cold Victoria Knight had come to accept Nanny as part of the family, moved by her resilience and devotion to Alexander. Not long after, Nanny gave birth to twin girls, two beautiful, healthy babies who brought immeasurable joy to their lives. On a bright spring morning, Alexander stood on the balcony of their countryside estate, cradling the twins in his arms, a perfect mirror of Nanny's sparkling blue eyes and his own dark hair. As he gently rocked them, their tiny hands curled around his fingers. His heart swelled with a happiness he had never known before. Nanny stood beside him, her head resting on his shoulder, her serene smile reflecting the deep love and gratitude they shared for the family they had built. "Do you have any regrets?" Nanny asked softly, looking up at him. Alexander kissed her forehead gently. "If I have one, it's that I didn't propose to you sooner." They both laughed, their hearts full as they looked ahead to a future filled with love, success, and the family they had built together.